I'm Diana Falzone for NewsNation. U.S. Air Force veteran Lindsay Gutierrez served our country for 6 years. After leaving the military, Lindsay became a double organ donor. She donated one of her kidneys to save the life of a military veteran and donated 40% of her liver, giving another person the chance to survive and thrive. There are only 280 people in the United States that are living double organ donors. Lindsay is now featured as one of the models in the 2026 Pinup for Vets calendar, a nonprofit organization that raises funds to improve veterans' healthcare and donates funds to VA hospitals for medical equipment and program expansion. Welcome, Lindsay. Thank you for your service.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on the show.
It's great to have you here. You served in the Air Force for 6 years until 2016. You were honorably discharged. In 2014, you were in a vehicle accident that left you with an undiagnosed traumatic brain injury during one of your deployments. How did that severe injury impact your life post-military career?
It was a struggle at first. It was difficult really trying to find that identity of who I was after the military because you're so rooted in all the amazing things that you're doing when you're serving. So whenever I got out, I went a few years without having that diagnosis, but I knew that there was a bunch of different changes happening internally, and I just couldn't find the right words to articulate what was going on. So I felt like I was struggling alone. It was a few years of not having any employment, trying to find out who I was, where I was going, relocating to a whole new place after my husband and I had moved from England to Georgia. So it was a bunch of changes and trying to navigate this new life that I had. It was a struggle, but thankfully I received some incredible support at the VA and had a neurologist who finally listened to me. I think that was the big problem, was just having somebody who heard the words that I was trying to say and make sense of. And she listened to me, diagnosed me with the TBI. And that is whenever my life changed. And I was able to finally start something new with what I needed to do with my life. And I felt purpose and I felt reaffirmed that there was a change that was happening. Now I know what it is and I know how I can navigate going forward.
That's an incredible story. It's harrowing, and I think it's also reflective of so many veterans post-military career when they are struggling and they don't know where to go and they don't know where to find the support, and to have to advocate for yourself when you're already feeling as low as you are takes a lot of resilience and grit, which obviously you have. What was the impetus for you to donate your kidney to a fellow military service member? How did that come about?
It started in 2021. I had connected with a friend, and she was telling me about a friend of hers that I believe at the time was needing a liver transplant. Knowing that I was O positive, I recognized that I could donate my blood to anybody. So why not maybe donate an organ? I didn't think twice about answering her and saying, hey, if he needs anything, let me know. Thankfully, he was able to receive the care that he needed. But that seed was planted in my mind. And that was in around November of 21. So then January of 22 comes around. I'm working in my congressional office in Georgia. So my supervisor handed me a copy of the Military Times magazine. And at this point, we had never received this magazine in office ever. And like I said, I've been there for about 3 years now. And I open it up and all of a sudden something kind of clicks because I see an ad for Donor Outreach for Veterans, or DOVE. And I realized that it's a nonprofit connecting veterans and active duty to donors. And I thought, wow, that I could do that. That's something I could do. So I reached out to Sharon Kreitzer at DOVE. I did not tell my husband yet what I was doing, but I decided, let me just take initiative and get some education and learn about what this process is all about. And then the rest is history.
Wow. And that is something that, did you even think about what you would be putting your body through doing so?
Kind of. I didn't even really physically think about what changes was going to happen at that point. I knew that there was somebody on the transplant list who was needing a kidney. This was going to be a life-saving situation for them and their family. So to me, it was worth just going through and getting some information to figure out what it was going to take. And everything else was kind of secondary at that point.
What was your recovery like?
It was a challenge physically because you don't really know exactly what to expect. I would go through this over and over again if I could. If I had more organs to give, I would absolutely do this process over again. But your body is going through some really major changes because now it's learning to compensate for one kidney. Your
Mhm.
other kidney kind of grows and expands to help compensate for the loss of the other one. Physically, I was really sore. There was just, me trying to figure out, how am I supposed to get out of bed? How am I supposed to walk? But walking was actually the best thing for me because that helps loosen up the muscles. It moves your body around. It gets things awake from the anesthesia. So it was the best recovery period during those first 2 weeks as far as just movement. And so I was taking it slow. But after 2 weeks or so, I felt super well. I don't know how else to explain it other than I felt like I was kind of back to normal, other than the fact that your body's just getting used to recovering from this major surgery and you're still sore abdominally. But everything else, I felt great.
Oh, and do you know how your fellow veteran is doing now that you donated your kidney to them?
Yes, Reggie is doing fantastic. I am so proud to say. And fun fact, his wife wasn't able to donate to him, but she was able to donate with the gentleman I was originally connected with to
Oh,
be able to donate. And she was a match to him. So his name is Kevin. So everybody's doing fantastic. I am so blessed to have them as a new part of my family. They are amazing. I'm so excited to always share that they're both doing well.
the world can be really callous and selfish, and to hear these acts of selflessness is so heartwarming and encouraging. How about your anonymous liver recipient? Because let's not forget that you donated a part of your liver as well. Have you heard from them?
I actually have. It was about maybe a week or two ago now. It was out of the blue, very unexpected because I donated to the recipient on April 30th of last year. And so we have gone all this time, and I wanted to make sure I never wanted to be the first one to reach out because I know it's a much different process for the recipient than it
Mhm.
is for the donor because I'm back to normal. Everything is healthy for me. I have no challenges or issues. The recipient, on the other hand, is still coping with a lot of these new changes in this new lifestyle. So I wanted to give them that space to be able to reach out to me when that time was ready. And they did. And I am so excited to be able to share that I got my first letter from the recipient. And I hope once we connect, I have written them back. And so I do hope that once I hear back, hopefully, that we can schedule a time to eventually meet. That would be such an honor.
And they're doing well.
They're doing great.
That's awesome. Tell us about Pin Up for Vets, the nonprofit organization. What was it like modeling for the calendar?
Wow, it was tremendous because how often do you really get to dress up as a 1940s pinup girl? I've never done that before in my life. Pinups for Vets really gave me a new sense of femininity and embracing my veteranhood and realizing that you don't have to just pick one or two identities. You're
Mhm.
all these different people. And that's what Pinups for Vets really showcases through the calendar is that, yes, we have these great attributes that we are presenting in the calendar and that's what people see as our pictures, but there's so much more to the story. And I love that Gina, our founder, shares that on our social media pages and shows these are all the amazing things that these women are doing.
And she's had this organization, Gina, for 20 years that she founded, and they've done some incredible work. They boost the morale at the veteran hospitals by visiting veterans at VA hospitals and of course, donating funds to these hospitals that are so in need of equipment and other things. So it's a great organization, and it's been around a really long time. Um, you pulled yourself out of a hard place. For veterans who may feel like you did at one point in your life, lost and unsteady and unready for life as a civilian, what advice do you offer to them?
You're not alone. I took forever, it felt like, to really embrace that concept on my own because I was so used to just being that independent woman. And I felt like society was telling me, okay, now you're out of the military, you have to get a job. There's a traditional track for everything. But everybody has their own journey. And so even though I left the service and I was feeling so down on myself because I thought, well, I have these degrees, I have my military service, I felt like I'm qualified in these different jobs I'm applying for, and nobody was hiring me. I couldn't make sense of that. But it allowed me that space to really recenter myself and focus on what are the things that you have to give? What can you do for fellow people in your community and your veteran world? Expand on that. So give yourself that grace and know that your trajectory does not have to look like somebody else's. Give yourself time and space, and it's okay to be where you're at. You don't have to rush anything, and just enjoy each day as it comes, because what God placed on my heart in my life is going to be different for somebody else. But always remember that you have people around you who love and care for you and want to support you.
Thank you, Lindsay. You really are a true hero.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And thank you for allowing me to share my story, because it really impacts the number of people on the transplant list. And that's what we at Pinups for Vets are trying to work on, is helping our veterans in these healthcare communities and helping to reduce that number of the transplant recipients.
Thank you again. For more on Lindsay's story on courageously donating 2 of her organs, go to newsnationnow.com.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.